I remember standing in the corner, heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst as they laughed at her. My auntie, my aunt, the woman who had always been the calm center of every storm, was trembling, tears welling up in her eyes over something so small, so trivial. And yet, the room had turned into a stage for her humiliation. The laughter was sharp, cutting through me like knives. Each chuckle, each whisper echoed in my chest, leaving a visceral ache I couldn't push away. I froze, my body rigid, watching as they stripped her dignity piece by piece. She tried to speak, her voice shaky but determined. I didn't mean to, she began, but it was useless. They cut her off with sneers, exchanging cruel glances and smirks, enjoying the spectacle as though they were watching a play. Her boss stood there, subtle smirk in place, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. It was predatory, almost sadistic, the way he soaked in her fear, the way he reveled in her vulnerability. Her hands shook violently as she clutched the stack of papers in front of her, knuckles white. Every eye in that room was trained on her, every gaze a judgment, every whisper a condemnation. I could feel the humiliation pressing down on her, a heavy, suffocating weight. The coworkers piled on, sarcastic comments dripping from their lips, each word meticulously crafted to wound. Oh, watch out, fragile little lady is crying again. Maybe emotions aren't your strong suit. Their cruelty was precise, surgical, designed to make her doubt her worth. I felt helpless, a surge of anger rising inside me, but it was trapped. I couldn't reach her, couldn't stop them. She shrank into herself, trying desperately to become invisible, to disappear from their mocking eyes. One colleague leaned in, voice low but cutting. Emotional much? Guess that's all you're good at. The sting of it went deeper than any insult I'd heard. I saw the flash of pain in her eyes, the shame, but then something else flickered. Anger, resilience. Something unspoken, something I didn't yet understand. Her gaze dropped and she turned to leave the room quietly, head bowed, shoulders heavy. Yet even as she walked away, the echo of their laughter followed her. It wasn't just in the room. It followed us home, etched into memory, searing itself into my mind. And hers. I wanted to scream at them, to make them feel a fraction of this pain, but I stayed silent, watching her retreat. And deep down, I felt it. The flicker of strength that would one day burn brighter than any humiliation they could throw at her. I can still see it all, etched in my memory. The countless nights she carried the weight of the family silently, without recognition, without a single word of thanks. She never asked for anything, never demanded attention. She simply gave, always putting everyone else first, hiding her own dreams, her own fears, behind that calm, steady smile of hers. I remember stories from her past, fragments that surface in my mind like shadows. A best friend who betrayed her when she trusted blindly, family dismissals that cut deep, financial struggles she shouldered alone. She bore all of it with a quiet dignity that no one seemed to notice. There were nights I'll never forget when I'd glimpse her helping neighbors, sneaking money to cover hospital bills, standing up for anyone smaller, weaker, or overlooked. She never cried in front of me, but I remember the nights she thought no one was watching, tears slipping silently down her cheeks, her shoulders trembling in the darkness. Her heart had been broken before, shattered by someone she had trusted implicitly. And yet, she bore it all, silently, without bitterness showing on her face, without letting the world see the cracks in her armor. Society had always judged her for feeling, for showing emotion, for being vulnerable, and she learned to carry that judgment like a weight, steady and unshakable. Watching her at work, enduring those humiliations, I could see those old wounds reopening with every cruel comment, every mocking glance. Each insult layered over old scars, each sneer another reminder of every injustice she had survived. And yet, the more I reflected, the more I realized she was anything but fragile. She was forged by every storm, tempered by betrayal, and strengthened by pain. She had become a master at reading people, sensing hypocrisy before it was spoken, and quietly planning justice. So meticulous and unseen that no one would suspect her until it was too late. She had learned that strength could be silent, and that vengeance could be subtle, unstoppable, and devastating. Watching her now, I understood. Every tear she had ever shed, every humiliation she endured, had been shaping her for this moment. The moment when her hidden power would finally surface, and no one could ever underestimate her again. I began to notice the patterns, subtle at first, almost imperceptible. The petty cruelty of her coworkers, the sly manipulations, the tiny acts of gaslighting that chipped away at her confidence. Each day brought something new. A mocking note left on her desk, a whispered joke when she passed by, small acts of sabotage that made her question her own worth. And yet she held herself together. I watched her force a smile, the calm mask hiding the storm inside. Beneath that veneer, I could feel the fury simmering, a quiet fire that refused to be extinguished. She started documenting everything. Every insult, every unfair action, each slight meticulously recorded in a silent ledger of injustice. I watched her reach out to former colleagues, gathering witnesses who knew her true integrity and professionalism. Allies hidden in plain sight. The office transformed into a battlefield under her quiet command. She navigated it with calculated calm, each step deliberate, each reaction measured, hiding the storm that raged within. I observed her subtle tactics, planting doubts in the minds of the cruel, redirecting blame just enough to expose hypocrisy, and gently maneuvering the truth so it could no longer be denied. Her emotional intelligence became her weapon. She learned quickly who would crumble under exposure and who thrived on cruelty, mapping the battlefield with precision only she could wield. Then came the breaking point, an incident so humiliating it could have broken anyone else. False rumors spread about her competence, whispered from desk to desk, each word designed to undermine her hard-earned reputation. I saw her posture shift in that moment. Something changed. A newfound determination settled over her like armor. I could feel it radiating off her. The decision that this humiliation would end on her terms, and that she would reclaim the power they had so cruelly tried to strip away. No longer just surviving, she was preparing. Every note she documented, every whispered slight, every subtle move became part of a plan. And I knew, watching her, that when she acted, the storm she had hidden for so long would finally be unleashed. Everything changed the moment she received that phone call. I remember the tension in her eyes as she listened, voice low and steady, absorbing what I could barely believe myself. A colleague had secretly recorded every humiliation, every mocking word, every whisper meant to crush her. Evidence in her hands, the balance of power shifted instantly. She turned to me quietly, her expression unreadable, and shared her plan. It was meticulous, legal, psychologically devastating, a strategy forged from every betrayal she had endured, every slight she had suffered. Her past wounds fueled her now. This was no longer office drama, this was personal justice. I watched her schedule private meetings with HR, walking into those rooms armed with undeniable proof. The same boss who had laughed at her first public breakdown now felt the tension in the air, subtle but undeniable, as control slowly slipped from his grasp. She reached out to higher-ups she had quietly observed, those who had admired her integrity from the shadows, assembling allies without anyone realizing it. I saw the transformation unfold before my eyes. The tears that once betrayed vulnerability were gone, replaced by a calm, predatory focus, a precision honed by years of suppression and pain. Even her colleagues who had mocked her so brazenly began to shift, their confidence shaken, sensing the woman before them was no longer the one they could manipulate. Then, a whispered phone call to a trusted friend amplified her network further. Every ally, every supporter was now in place, quietly preparing the stage for a revelation that would leave the entire office exposed. And I knew, in that moment, that the storm she had been silently building for years was finally ready to strike. The day arrived heavy with anticipation, and she walked into the company-wide meeting with a quiet confidence that made the room still. Her voice was steady, unwavering, each word commanding attention, each pause a silent hammer striking truth. I watched as every humiliator was forced to face what they had done. The cruelty, the lies, the laughter that had once echoed so loudly now swallowed by silence. HR and upper management shifted in their seats, shock written across their faces as the undeniable proof of misconduct unfolded before them. She presented it all with calm precision. Emails, recordings, witness statements. every subtle manipulation laid bare in a display that was both methodical and merciless. One by one, the office bullies squirmed under the weight of their actions, cheeks flushed with shame, eyes darting to avoid hers. The boss tried to speak, to excuse, to rationalize, but her composure made every defense crumble. There was no room for denial, no space for lies. I felt a surge of pride and awe as her years of hidden emotional pain transformed into power, her dignity fully restored, radiant and unassailable. Financial restitution was secured quietly, legal safeguards put in place to prevent any further retaliation. But she was not finished. She confronted the ringleader of her humiliation personally, not with rage, but with cold, surgical clarity. Every word, every gesture mirrored the humiliation they had tried to impose on her. Truth cut sharper than any blade, justice delivered with precision. The office shifted irrevocably. Mockery dissolved into respect. Whispers of fear replaced laughter, and her strength became a lesson silently absorbed by everyone who had once doubted her. Watching her in that moment, I realized something profound. No one who tries to break her could ever succeed. She had turned every tear, every insult, every hidden wound into an unstoppable force, and nothing in that room could ever forget it. She returned home that evening, steps heavy with exhaustion yet lighter than I had ever seen her. The weight of years spent silently suffering, of enduring mockery and betrayal, had finally lifted from her shoulders. I watched her breathe deeply, the tension in her frame dissolving with each exhale, shoulders relaxing as if the invisible chains had snapped. The quiet victory hung in the air, acknowledged even by those who had once tormented her. They avoided her gaze, unable to meet the strength they had tried to break. I noticed subtle smiles from colleagues who had witnessed her courage, expressions of admiration and quiet inspiration. They saw what I had seen all along. Her resilience was extraordinary, and it had changed everything. She sat for a moment, reflecting on the transformation, the realization settling in that emotional expression was never weakness. It was power. Every tear she had shed, every tremble she had concealed, had shaped her into someone unstoppable. The family celebrated quietly, a private acknowledgement of the depth of her strength, monumental in ways the world would never fully see. And I could see her planning ahead, quietly envisioning how she would mentor others, create safe spaces, and use her experience to shield the vulnerable from the pain she had endured. Her legal victories and professional triumphs cemented her place. Reputation untarnished, dignity intact, a fortress built from years of patience and silent strategy. The office itself began to shift, culture slowly changing, a ripple of accountability seeded by the courage she had displayed. Finally, she allowed herself a private smile, a small, quiet acknowledgement that justice does not need to roar. It is felt, it is enduring, and it is inevitable. In that moment, I understood completely. She had not only reclaimed her life, she had transformed every humiliation into power, every wound into triumph, and every quiet tear into unshakable strength. I speak directly to you now, my voice trembling as I remember the moment I truly understood what strength really is, how it can rise from the most fragile of places, from tears, from pain, from moments of seeming weakness. Sometimes those who cry are the ones who teach the world its hardest lessons, I say, and I feel it deep in my chest because I've seen it firsthand. Patience, resilience, the quiet power of determination. These are the things that win battles no one else sees. I want you to see it too, to recognize the strength in emotional expression, and to honor those who fight silently while the world laughs. Every humiliation can be met with courage, but only when guided by evidence, strategy, and moral fortitude. That is how she turned every insult into leverage, every sneer into a stepping stone toward justice. I imagine her now, a montage in my mind, smiling, confident, unapologetic, no longer a victim, but a victor. Her transformation is breathtaking, and it teaches a lesson that can't be ignored. Revenge is not always about anger. Sometimes it is about justice, about reclaiming dignity, about empowerment. She proved that. If someone you know has been humiliated, remember, their tears may hide unstoppable strength. That is the truth I want you to carry with you. Support, uplift, and honor the emotionally vulnerable in your life. Do not mock them. Do not dismiss them, because their strength may be the quietest yet most devastating force in the room. And as I close, I leave you with her quiet triumph lingering in your mind, a reminder that real strength can rise from the deepest pain, that those who seem broken can become the ones who change everything.